Uh, This meeting of the Lower McCungy Town Board of Commissioners Workshop is called to order. First item, pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so the first item is Chris here.
Chris is on Zoom, and Chris has a report for his annual report for the board and for the public. Chris is remote tonight from baseball, so. Hi, Chris.
Good evening, and thank you for allowing me to present this way. We previously provided our 2023 annual report. We responded to 5,165 calls for service last year, with 3,840 of those in Lower McCungy Township. Our fleet of 5 ambulances and support vehicles transported or traveled approximately 85,000 miles. As you may recall, 2 years ago, and you approved, and last year you provided funding for a new ambulance. That ambulance was a remounted ambulance. It is currently at the remount shop, and we expect to be back here in May, new and ready to go. Inside our annual report, I'm not sure if you have it in front of you there today. We have information about our organization. We have a little survivor story about some residents that were suffering carbon monoxide poisoning in Lower McCungy Township. And thanks to the work of our crew and the fire department, they survived. They were actually so sick that one of them had to be flown down to Philadelphia for further treatment. We continue to be part of the Station 101 Lehigh County Joint Rehab Task Force to assist with large-scale incidents throughout the county. Our community outreach division also remains extremely busy, and we are happy to report that we have hired a full-time employee who is a retired Allentown paramedic after 24 years to provide community outreach. So part of his job is on the truck, and part of his job is out doing CPR classes and checking AEDs and just working with the community to make sure that when there is an emergency, people know what to do before we get there. The last thing I have to share, and I'll be happy to answer any questions, is that EMS Week is next month. And on May 18th, we'll be having an EMS Week kickoff event from 11 to 1 at Lockridge Park. We used to have open houses back when we first opened our station. Unfortunately, that intersection there at the Buckeye Tavern is a little tough to bring a lot of people in and out of, so we kind of stopped doing that. But now we've restarted that, and we're moving them around. So last year we were in McCungy Borough. This year we'll be in Albertus Borough, and next year we'll be in definitely one of the townships. So that is our annual report. And as always, I thank you for your support. Without your support, our organization would not be able to continue responding to emergencies.
Well, thank you very much for all of the support for the community that you provide. So thank you.
You are most welcome. Thank you.
And I would just note to the board and Chris as well, we continue to work through successfully. We were able to get a local share grant funded through the state and Representative McKenzie's office for equipment. Chris has been working diligently to get all of his quotes and ordering ready for that. And we should hopefully be seeing that placed into service fairly soon, I would think by midsummer. So we continue to partner and work together to try to make things definitely better. So just always want to thank Chris too for all the hard work he does and everything from the township side. We're fortunate, at least on my end, to be able to deal with Chris and the McCungy Ambulance Corps. So
thank you for the kind words, Bruce. And yeah, it was a great experience in working through that share grant process. And I think we now kind of we know what we need to get done. There's always a lot of steps in those types of grants, but we were successful in that one. So I think we're good to go. I think just on another note, separate from the township, but we always are putting in for grant opportunities. We were awarded a American Fire grant of about $44,000 for a new cardiac monitor as well, which is on order. Unfortunately, like everything else, everything takes a long time. But yeah, we've been relatively successful in the last year. Hopefully that will continue.
So thank you again, Chris.
Of course, thank you.
Next item on the agenda, Kelly.
So we've been partnering with the state as well as Penn State, and we've fortunate for those that didn't see the presentation in the fall of last year. Kelly has been gracious enough to work with us through our process as part of an internship that she works with through the LCAP program. So with that, we started with, and I'll let her get into her presentation, but we started with kind of a review of some greenhouse gas emissions, and then Kelly has been really working hard to look at several key items that we kind of identified as a staff through that process. We're fortunate that, like I said, we've had her for this semester. She will be, as part of her final project follow-up, she'll be at community days, at working the table with the EAC and Nathan. So what you see before you this evening as the board and the public is Kelly's hard work throughout the semester, and her presentation this evening kind of encompasses everything that she's been helping us with. So we wanted to bring that before the board and hear what she's been working on.
All right, so thank you so much for having me. It's really great to be back in Lower Macungie Township this evening to share what I've been working on in the local climate action program. So for those who may have missed my first presentation, I'm Kelly Volkemer. I'm a graduate student at Penn State studying renewable energy and sustainability systems. I'll be graduating this December. I graduated with my bachelor's in energy and sustainability policy in 2017, and since then I've been working for Shipley Energy, where I schedule and trade natural gas. So I also serve as a supplier representative for the Met-Ed Penelec Sustainable Energy Fund, where we decide on funding programs and projects that make our region more sustainable and resilient. So before we get into the specifics, I thought it would be helpful to start with a recap, a quick refresher for some of you, and for others, this will help catch you up. So LCAP is a year-long program that spans 2 semesters. In the first, we focus on producing that greenhouse gas emissions inventory, and in the second, we work on climate action efforts. So I started working with Lower Macungie in August. For the first several weeks, we learned about the foundations of greenhouse gas accounting and climate governance, and then get to know our municipalities. So then we received training on at least ClearPath software. That's where we put all of the data to produce the inventory. And the culmination of that first semester was presenting your findings. And I did this with you all on December 7th. So after winter break, the second semester of work begins, and working with Bruce, Renee, and Nate, we identified 4 key focuses for the spring semester. Those were to survey township residents to understand the community's interests and priorities, conduct an open space analysis, and analyze the operations of the township's yard waste and composting facilities. So after presenting to you all this evening, my final event will be attending Community Day on May 7th. So my presentation this evening, I'll provide a brief overview of the inventory findings, then talk a little bit about each of the projects, and then discuss potential next steps and considerations of where you might go next. So the greenhouse gas emissions inventory I compiled for Lower Macungie was a community-wide inventory. So what you see here are the total emissions for the entire township represented in 6 sectors. Commercial and industrial energy, transportation, and residential energy were the bulk of your emissions. In total, the emissions attributed to Lower Macungie Township in 2022 were 281,944 metric tons of carbon dioxide equivalent, which is roughly 8.66 metric tons per person. So while I won't be going into any more detail this evening, my previous presentation is available on the website if anyone would like to learn more. So I find context to be incredibly helpful when understanding greenhouse gas emissions. Therefore, I provided this slide, which shows how Lower Macungie's emissions compare to others. First, they're compared to Middletown Township, which is another township with many similarities to Lower Macungie. Next to the Lehigh Valley, and then to Pennsylvania. So what you see here are that Lower Macungie emissions are well below the statewide average and the average of the Lehigh Valley. But you have a very similar emissions profile to other communities with similar profiles. You're a largely residential township, so that's to be expected. So with that, we are ready to move on to this semester's work. So the first project that I was tasked with this semester was updating the township's website and producing a community survey. The Climate Action Plan page has information about the science and impacts of climate change, information about the greenhouse gas emissions inventory, and then other links and resources. This page will remain an important resource for your community moving forward. So why a survey? Well, one of the first things expressed to me was the desire to better understand the community's preferences and priorities, but there aren't many opportunities to hear what residents have to say until specific actions are taken, but it is so much more efficient to have that information that guides government to focus their actions where the residents want them. So the survey seeks to collect those preferences. It will help understand how best to engage residents, what the community's attitude towards climate change is, what impacts of climate change are they most concerned about, and what co-benefits of climate action matter most. The different actions that residents are already taking, might be curious about, or resistant to. What stands in the residents' ways as barriers to climate action. And then demographics will help us see how representative the survey sample is of the community at whole and identify if any trends exist. Finally, why do residents like living in Lower Macungie Township? So we organize the survey in two ways. First, a random sampling of township residents received a postcard in the mail inviting them to participate. And then the survey was promoted over different channels like social media, on flyers and digital posters, through the Civic Ready notification system, and at community events like the shredding event 2 weeks ago. So this is the design of the postcard that was used to promote the survey. There were both English and Spanish versions available, as well as paper if the residents were more comfortable completing it that way. The survey opened back on March 15th, and today is actually the last day it will be open. So I welcome you to use the QR code here or make note of the website if you haven't already. And please take a moment to participate in the survey either later this evening or first thing tomorrow morning. I will begin to organize these responses to produce a poster presentation that will be available at Community Day. So the second project that I worked on was an open space analysis. Lower Macungie residents deeply value their open space. So much so that in 2021, you passed a referendum imposing an earned income tax to benefit their preservation. The last time I was here on December 7th, you all approved an official township map with designations of existing open spaces and those proposed for acquisition for preservation. So here's a sneak peek at one of the survey question results when asked which co-benefit of climate action mattered most. Residents responded that protecting open spaces was their top priority. So the goal of this project was to understand all of the ecosystem services that open spaces provide for the township and to provide some concrete data on those services. What happens when open spaces are developed? So on this slide, I'm showing the land use as of 2019 in Lower Macungie Township using ICLEI's LEARN tool. LEARN stands for Land Emissions and Removals Navigator. The tool tracks land use changes over time and measures the emissions or removals associated with those changes. So some of what we know about open space is instinctual. For instance, we all understand that an acre of forest provides greater environmental benefits than what 5 houses on that same acre of land would provide. So in terms of our climate, that vegetation, the trees, the shrubs, the crops, the grasses, they all take carbon from the air and store it in their leaves, trunks, stems, and roots. And the carbon can stay there for as long as the vegetation is left undisturbed. This storing of carbon is called carbon sequestration. And different types of open spaces have different abilities to store carbon. So forests store the most, followed by agricultural lands, wetlands, and then grasslands. So however, each type of open space provides far more benefit than its carbon sequestration rate alone. So the graph on the right is from a land use analysis of the Delaware River Basin and the impacts of different land use changes. And you can see that when land use changes, the emissions and removals are affected. So the most emissions are produced when forests change to development, but even when forests change to pastures, there's still a net release of emissions. One particular interest here is the significant carbon benefit of placing solar on grasslands. So the forested land of the South Mountain area are critical carbon sinks of the township. On average, 1 acre of Pennsylvania forests store 227 metric tons of carbon dioxide. So that's as much as 22 Lower Macungie residents emit in a year. And each year, an acre of forest can sequester an additional 0.84 metric tons. So it would take 10 acres of forest to sequester the emissions of just 1 Lower Macungie resident. However, open spaces provide many other services. Some include improved public health, air and water quality, flood management, and biodiversity. So for health and recreation, the parcel of land here was identified for acquisition for a park. In 2014, a study by the Lehigh Valley Planning Commission found that protected open space in the Lehigh Valley returned $3.6 million in healthcare savings from reduced air pollution and $54 million in health-related savings from recreation. So parks are not only an important open space for their environmental benefits, but also for keeping residents active and healthy. So for flood control, a significant portion of this land plot lies within the floodplain of Little Lehigh Creek. You can see the drainage swale cutting through the right side of the parcel. Open spaces like this provide flood control during extreme weather events by absorbing and holding the water, slowly releasing it as waterways recede. Additionally, as water filters through the soil and the vegetation, it's cleaned of impurities. Finally, and possibly the most obvious, is that when development is sited within flood-prone areas, the risk of damage is high. So preserving open spaces in lands such as this is an easy way to avoid costly recovery efforts. And finally, biodiversity. The lands shown here are a part of the Little Lehigh grasslands. That's a Pennsylvania natural heritage site providing core habitat to sensitive species throughout the state. The species that call this area home rely on the nearby wetlands and open agricultural spaces for their life cycles. Developing certain open spaces like these risks losing valuable plant and animal species. So on this map, the slide shows the existing preserved open spaces within the township in dark green and those proposed for acquisition in light green. Together, these amount to about half of the open spaces in the township. Furthermore, I found that the open spaces identified for acquisition do more heavy lifting in terms of carbon sequestration than the open spaces that you've already protected. So that makes those open spaces even more important to preserve.
Why is that?
I'm sorry?
Why is that as far as the stuff we're talking about acquiring, having more holding power than the stuff we've already acquired?
It's most likely due to the type of space. As I said on my last slide, different types of land are better at storing carbon. Like your forested land stores the most, then croplands store a little bit less. So if the lands that were proposed for acquisition have more of that tree canopy, or it's agricultural lands, then it might have higher carbon sequestration rates than the stuff that you've already detected. So if you'd like more details on the analysis, I have included my report with full citations in this evening's board agenda packet. And the third project, and the one that I'm currently wrapping up, is essentially a mini greenhouse gas emissions inventory for the township's yard waste and composting facilities. These images provided by the township show some of the equipment used to turn that yard waste into mulch and humus. So it's an intensive process that most of us probably don't think much about. Some of these machines can consume more than 22 gallons of diesel fuel per hour of use. So is this the best way that the township can handle the residential yard waste? Maybe, but maybe not. The first step in being able to answer the question is to understand the impacts of its current operation. So the analysis included the facility operations. That was running loaders, a tub grinder, composting machine, and dump truck. It also included the emissions attributed to residential drop-off of that yard waste and a 7-week-long season of curbside leaf collection and hauls of yard waste between the Indian Creek facility and the Quarry Road facility. So curbside waste pickup from waste management was not included, and that is because that processing occurs elsewhere. So in total, these emissions were estimated to be 255 metric tons of carbon dioxide equivalent annually. And that's the equivalent of the annual emissions from about 30 Lower Macungie residents. It's a significant amount of emissions, but that's just to get the yard waste from its source and turn it into the mulch and humus. It does not account for where that goes next. So it could be more like 400 metric tons or the emissions of 46 residents. So the emissions produced by a process only tells us part of the story. So I've included the EPA's waste management hierarchy here, which shows the most preferable management solutions at the top to the least preferable solutions at the bottom. So you'll see that before anything, the best process is to reduce and reuse waste at its source. So the first thing to ask yourself is, how can we encourage less yard waste overall? Education and ordinances are a good place to start. You can communicate the benefits of mulching grass as you mow or composting in your backyard. Perhaps provide workshops and teach residents how to compost. Next, once you've reduced, the next best solution is composting, which you're doing. Composting has enormous environmental benefits, as shown here. It allows the nutrients in these materials to be reused. It improves soil quality. Compost efficiently holds water, which may require less watering of gardens, and assists with stormwater management and preventing erosion. So the following step is energy recovery. And some localities accept some types of yard waste for incineration to produce electricity. While this management produces energy, which we all need, it's not without its own problems. Destroying those nutrients may also result in the need for more synthetic fertilizers. Finally, you have disposal or landfilling. And this is the least preferred option because when organic waste decomposes in a landfill, it produces methane. And methane is 28 times more efficient at heating our planet than carbon dioxide. So the final part of the project involved discussing how others might be managing their yard waste, and I selected 3 cities known for being leaders in climate action. First, Ithaca, New York has a program very similar to Lower Macungie's current system. Aspen, Colorado adopted an ordinance that when fully phased in, it will require all organic waste to either be composted or donated. Multiple options exist for customers, both free and fee-based. Burlington, Vermont has made it illegal to dispose of yard waste in the trash, but they also do not provide curbside waste collection. So any waste management decision involves trade-offs, and many municipalities are currently wrestling with the same question because there's no single right answer. So the analysis will allow you to make a more informed decision about what is right for Lower Macungie. So finally, this semester, I'll also attend Lower Macunchee's Community Day, and I'm looking forward to that opportunity to engage with some of the residents. Although my plan for the event is still being formed, I'll definitely have that poster presentation of the survey results, and I'm interested to hear what residents have to say about those results. I'm also planning to connect through a climate change game. There are a few different versions on the market, but I'll be using Solutions the game. Although playing the game as designed will not be possible in such a setting, I will be using the cards to foster conversation and engage with residents. So you may be wondering what's next for Lower Macunchee Township post LCAP. Where do you go from here? Well, you're now armed with a lot of information and are positioned well to take it and run. So you may choose to set a science-based reduction target. I show the United States and Pennsylvania's targets here. The Lehigh Valley will be publishing its targets sometime this year. And with a target in place, you could then draft a climate action plan comprised of several sector-specific actions that you would take to achieve that target. There is support within the community for setting a net zero by 2050 target, as evidenced by the community survey. Of the responses received to date, 57% of residents either fully or would consider supporting the initiative. 22% are either undecided or need more information to decide, and just over a fifth of the community say that they are unwilling to or won't support it. In lieu of an action plan, or until one is enacted, you may choose to simply focus on a few large action efforts that will have the same effect of drawing down your emissions over time. Look to your sustainability survey results for good places to start. Possible projects could be making the township more walkable and bikeable, or engaging residents in the benefits of improving the home's efficiency, and existing programs and incentives out there to help. You may choose to participate in LCAP again for the local government operations and explore ways that the government operations can lead by example. Efforts to reduce your emissions in those top 3 sectors, the commercial and industrial energy, transportation, and residential energy, will be especially valuable. But whatever your path, you'll then implement that plan, monitor your results, and periodic inventories about every 3 years will allow you to see your progress. The goal is to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, which, when combined with the efforts of other communities, states, and countries, will help slow the rate of warming. Not only that, the efforts result in co-benefits, like improved public health, lower costs, and more resilient communities. So as I conclude, I want to offer a few final thoughts. Throughout the semester, the LCAP directors, Brandy Robinson and Peter Buck, organized this incredible lineup of speakers for us. You are welcome to watch these recordings at the link that I've provided here. Some of the organizations that we heard from are represented on this slide. The topics range from effective community engagement for climate action to available sources of federal and state funding to engaging with your schools and so much more. So each session is approximately an hour, but as recordings, you can watch as little or as much as you want. It'll be another useful resource moving forward. So while I could talk much longer about all of the speakers and all of my amazing experiences this semester, I just want to say thank you so much for having me and for allowing me this opportunity to work with your township. And if there is anything that I can help even beyond this semester, please don't hesitate to reach out. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Well, thank you very much for the work you put in. Made a lot more progress than last year. But no, we really do appreciate it. It gives us something to look at moving forward.
Yeah, once again, I'd like to thank Kelly for all her hard work. Also Peter and Brandy. They've really helped us as a staff navigate the process and I think get where we needed to be this semester. So without them, I know we as a staff appreciate their guidance. So, and just let the board know as well, working to potentially here make an appearance at the Climate Solutions Symposium on May 13th. Nathan, we're going to talk about the benefits kind of what you saw in the open space presentation, the things that we've we've tried to be with the board support, as proactive as you are with the open space and the preservation. Kind of speak to that to other professionals and just kind of lay the template out for what we've been able to accomplish so far, with the support of residents. But where can we go on that next part as we've looked at an analysis for open space, and hopefully that shed some light, for others that might be working through, their own challenges for that. So we look to continue, making an appearance, and hopefully, if LCAP continues to have us in the future, we would definitely like to, continue to participate. So just wanted to thank everybody and thank them for what they've done for the staff. So. Oh, it looks like you're off the hot seat.
Oh.
Yeah, you can be done for the night. You did all that heavy lifting. So, all right, any other questions for Kelly before she heads out? Everybody good?
No, just, thank you for the presentation, very informative. And we appreciate the time you took and the depth of the study. So, I just want to thank you again for that. Appreciate it.
Okay, item 4, review resolution of plan for 1450 Brookside Road minor subdivision.
Commissioners, so this is a project that has made its way through the Planning Commission, and in fact, it had one appearance and then went into the technical review process. It is just a minor subdivision. So the owner of the property in question actually owns the home that's next door to the proposed lot. It is one large lot right now. This is the home that, if you look on the satellite, has the guitar-shaped pool. The prior owner worked at Martin Guitars, apparently. The owner has expressed interest to us and basically made it clear that this is the first step in their intent to do a more complex subdivision of numerous lots for a small residential development. They're looking at the option of connecting into Brookside Road. However, there is a stub road from Harvest that basically comes out what is Lamb Terrace, and we would expect that that would be their that would be one of their access points. For the purposes of this resolution and this plan, they're really just cutting off the singular lot to be, again, considered in the future for subdivision. We noted our continued interest for paths and street trees. Those have been deferred, considering the fact that we are expecting, or we're recommending, a deferral because we expect that they're going to come in with larger scale improvements as time goes on. There are a number of old growth trees on the lot, which per our zoning and saldo, we are recommending and insisting that they keep. They get credit for those. And then Engineer McAdam did note, I don't know if they've done it yet, but a geotech study of the site would be wise, given our karst geology, as well as, I guess, some of the initial findings on the site. So there's some interesting topography here. It does slope up from Brookside Road. We will be interested to see how they intend on managing stormwater and traffic and the like. But for this point in time, it really is just this one lot in a minor subdivision. So I'm happy to answer any questions you have. But before that, I would like to hand it over to Brian to see if he wants to cover anything I might have missed.
Yeah, thanks, Nate. I don't necessarily have too much to bring to the table other than, they are asking to kick the can down the road as far as doing a geotech study of the site. I don't think there would be an issue with them creating this, standalone, not standalone, but creating a separate lot for lot 1 with the idea that they're going to subdivide lot 2. In and of itself, I think that can certainly be accomplished without a geotech study. Obviously, if and when they come in with the subdivision plan for lot 2, we would insist on it. It just kind of, I guess, from my perspective, a little unusual to not want to do that now, just so you'd have a better sense for just how much you could do with lot 2, but it's their choice. They're not proposing any construction as of right now. So I don't feel compelled to, really dig my heels in and say they have to do it now. So I'm not opposed to it moving forward. I think the way the resolution's been drafted covers our bases in terms of deferrals. For, any kind of frontage improvements, traffic impact fees, so on and so forth. It's, as Nate said, it's just 2 lots. It's taken an existing lot and the owner is preparing, to do something with lot 2 as is his right. So I don't have too much else to add.
Thank you, Nate, for adding the stuff associated with one lot worth of recreational fee, because the ordinance assumes that all lots that are out there do have a recreational fee already associated with them.
Yep, and then just so everybody knows, what'll happen is when they come in with their bigger subdivision, then after that, there would be a credit. It would basically roll downhill from there. So we don't know how many lots they intend to try and yield from this site. Obviously, they're gonna have stormwater management and stormwater quality to take care of, but when the time comes, they will have paid this one up front. We'll go from there.
And, okay, so as far as the traffic impact fees, is that normally handled at, building permit time, or?
No, that'll be handled during the land development phase. The challenge here is we don't know how many units this is putting out, and then for us to calculate the trips, it's
Yeah.
virtually, it's very, very hard to do to factor that in, whereas the deferral on that will let us know when the time comes exactly how to handle it. With, are they going to put 6 units in here, 8 units? That's going to determine the fee. So,
Okay. But, if somebody has an acre lot and they're splitting it into 2 half-acre lots, and they're not gonna build a house this month, how does the traffic impact fee get taken care of in that?
normally what it would be per lot, and then the average trip, and then the fee paid at the time of the plan recording. But again, the way we're seeing it with this one is that it is much more laid out in terms of
Yeah.
with the recreation fee. We know it's potentially 1 unit on here.
Right.
Whereas we talked about it internally between Mark, Brian, and myself. We don't know what this is going to yield. So it'll be easier to calculate the number of trips when they come in with their major subdivision and have them pay everything at that time.
That's fine. I'm fine with the resolution and don't have any problem. Next item, manager's update.
Yeah, just a couple of things this evening for the board and the public. Wanted to let you know, David and I have worked to almost finish the solid waste collection contract. We anticipate that being available May 1st. We'll seek bids until June 6th. What we'd like to do is hopefully once we get those and can see them, make a report, a brief report on the evening of June 6th, just to tell you what we found. We'll run an analysis with the finance department on what certain services or additional services that we might be able to include, what that will mean to rates, have finance run that, and then bring that back to the board for the 20th, just to kind of give a heads up again in public. Talk about it again at the workshop in June, so that everybody feels comfortable with where we're going and the public can hear yet again how it may impact them with a potential July 18th award. We're hopeful that that's, those additional times in front of the public are going to help convey where we are. We did not want to rush and put the board in a situation or the public where they hadn't seen or heard it at multiple meetings. So we wanted to lay that time frame out to everybody and let you know where we were. So
Okay, so as far as the format of the request for proposal or whatever it is it going to be a base of just trash pickup and recycling once a week and then have additional services listed or?
Correct. So that will be the one collection per week, trash and recyclables. As we've noted to the board before, that as we currently have an unlimited situation, that will be a limited situation to look towards automation of routes. So that will be the first component. There will be some additional components, including, grass collection, curbside yard waste collection, and the household hazardous waste, or a form of a waste collection program.
And the
So,
electronic?
and the electronic, correct. So those will be kind of what we'd envision, those pieces. We seek the feedback from the proposals, and that'll allow the board to see how impactful that'll be per residence, and then work to establish that level. So when we get that back, we're hopeful to get a lot of feedback from you all and make sure we're headed in the right direction. I think I covered that, Dave, right? Where we are and where we want to be on those things. So
Yes, and Maury, I give Bruce frankly a lot of credit. He's done a lot of due diligence in terms of how it's being bid with the alternatives. I think it maximizes the result. So we'll see. But yes, we covered everything.
Okay, thank you.
all right. 5.2, we had some residents at a previous meeting come in about some truck parking on Scenic View Drive. We'll give a brief update, and then I'm sure we'll have another follow-up update in May or June as we look forward to where we are. The code office was in progress already before the residents came in to look at the stretch where you come off of Gaiman Road towards the recreation center out there, Hills of Lockridge. We received numerous complaints about box trucks, things of that nature, a tractor trailer cab that was in the area. So what we've done, we've engaged a traffic engineer to kind of look at the roadway in general. With that engineering review, we'll wait for the formal written document, but we're finding that the street there is definitely wide enough to accommodate traffic and parking on both sides of the street. So kind of where we are, we're fortunate that the box trucks were moved out of the area. We do have one truck driver that's a resident of the area that continues to park their one not trailer but tractor in the area. We've asked them to refrain from that as we've been getting complaints. But I think it's important to note that that is a resident of the area and not transient. So, I think some of the things that we've talked about internally that, the board always can help us with policy direction at some point as we talk through things. Do you look to restrict parking? If we restrict parking of trucks or vehicles in general, there's always that component of we have a wide street that can accommodate parking. We also have the enforcement provision where, how responsive can we be at evenings, weekends with code to run out and issue parking tickets? So, is that an effective policy if we would create those things? Would the board, understand those situations and how we convey that to residents? And then, always, do we create an additional problem if we start to restrict certain things in some places? Do we see them just move to other areas? If you restrict on Scenic View, are you now on Lincoln? If you look at one neighborhood, does it shift to another neighborhood? So we're trying to be very mindful as we do an analysis kind of and how we look at the area, knowing that we've been impacted by one resident is working to generate unhappiness with the rest of the neighborhood. So we did note, and we've marked our lots, no truck parking now. The township installed signage in those areas and we saw a picture from the gentleman that had originally complained. We had those parking in township lots. I'm hopeful that They're not there as frequent, but we have posted that. So I wanted to give the board an update, wanted everybody just to kind of start thinking about what your thoughts are on just in parking in general, parking restrictions, those type of things, in case we come back with some further, questions on what you'd like the policy to be. So thought would just get everyone up to speed. So unless there's any questions so far on that. All right. 5.3, just to let the residents know, we've received notification from Norfolk Southern. They are doing some paving between their right of way on Gaiman, so around the tracks before on the approaches. They are trying to tentatively start work on April 29th, 2024, if the weather cooperates. They're going to try to, well, they will have temporary traffic control in place, and they'll try to have some 24-hour advance notice for that closure. We understand it's going to be an inconvenience, but that's just some things they have to do for the track maintenance.
And how long are they anticipating the?
I think they're fairly quickly. It's an in and out, as quick as they can get the paving done. So if they can get that done in a day, they'd be moving on to the next component. So
Okay.
that's where we are with that. And then just a couple of other updates on things going on in the township. A reminder of Community Day, May 7th. So the public's invited to definitely attend on that side. Still working on the Gun Club Road Bridge. That is out to bid until May 10th. We're hopeful to have numbers back, and if we're within budget, would ask the board to consider an award for that. The Spring Creek Swale MS4 project is also out to bid. We should see that bid opening the same day, May 10th. So we'll have that. I would remind the board that that was funded with state grant dollars. So we're hopeful we'll be within budget. Brian's team is still working on the other two MS4 projects, the Hills at Lock Ridge Basin Naturalization, and right up the street here at the Fairways, Brookside on our side on the township property, the swale naturalization and remediation that's there. So working forward on those, and the Chestnut Street Culvert project soon to be out to bid.
And with respect to the Gun Club Road Bridge, the borings were done and included in the bid packets.
They were.
Yes.
It's where we need to be. I can let Brian speak to those, but we're where we needed to be with those borings and the results.
Yes, we actually got extremely good results with this round of the borings that were done. Just as a bit of a recap, the first borings were a little shallower. It was what we had done on Gaiman Road. Wound up being fine for that particular project. On this one, as had been discussed, there were some issues with the results from the shallow shallow samples. So when we had the borings done, we wound up getting extremely good results. We were able to get our structural engineer to turn around footer designs and a redesign of the bridge in a very short amount of time, so that we could go to bid as soon as we did with a different type of bridge structure that will should be, we're in much better position, I should say. So yes, the borings were done and we got good results.
Yeah, we're hopeful that, to do a structure more like Gaiman now with the beams and everything else that we had with the concrete decking. We had originally looked at that kind of already formed type structure, the arch structure. I'm hopeful that, we thought we'd have a cost savings there, but I'm hopeful that we'll see Gaiman be where we need to be on budget. So, we'd kind of looked at the trade-off on engineering on one of those pre-engineered structure versus where we were with the engineering and the structural engineer, as Brian noted now, kind of with where we are on the actual concrete beam type bridge. And I would say for, the less than like $10,000 that the structural engineer charged us, I think we're we're in a better position now. So, we've also asked, Brian and their group and the bridge engineer to look at, our next round of bridges, which is the area of, Smith and then Ash. They're gonna go do some survey and start to lay out, things, so we can have that design ready for the 2025 replacement. So we are in process on that side.
And are we gonna have culverts ready to replace in 2025 too?
I'm sorry, which part to replace?
Culverts.
I don't think we'll have culverts ready. We'll have to focus on the bridge. So, we're working, and that's the other thing I would note. Hopefully in May or June, we'll have the first set of review for, the stormwater videoing we did. And the lining that we're probably going to have to do in there. We definitely have, numerous photos. Brian's group's putting that together to have a presentation to show you what, those components look like. We're also looking to mobilize, the video contractor again to get in and look at, additional, footage of storm pipe. So, while we might not have culverts, we'll have some pipe work out there, we think, at this point. So where we are on projects, unless there's any questions, on that side of it. Recreation, as we talked Community Day, just a reminder, pool passes are up for sale at this point. The summer kids camp, continues to be, strong and well received. We're just over, 250, registered kids. We have a capacity for 300. So we're making our last push to fill that program. Also seeing, various, summer camps, that they have that are a little shorter. So to try to change things up a little bit, have that background as well. So, oh yeah, and you may notice the new park signs. Kylene, our assistant director, has been working hard on that. We're fortunate to get some feedback on, how they look. We've made a little tweak on, defining the text on there. So we're hopeful our next, park coming out is going to be, even better. But we're taking so many parks this year, and working to replace the, now, burgundy / pink signage with kind of a new look, logo out there. So,
That comment was, Wild Cherry Park had a street address on East Texas.
yeah, that was the catch on that side. And we looked to define the colors as well. So, we're hopeful that we're in the right direction. So, that project continues. Next week we'll start, the rest of the, sewer, SIP lining. So, residents may notice the contractor in the area, as they start to work through there. We're just over 18,000 feet of lining that's going to happen this year. I think we'll still have, some additional lining that's going to have to be done next year as part of our
What
source
developments are they gonna be starting in?
I'll have to look on the actual schedule, but they'll be in, they have one line to run over here by the fairways. They'll be in, Millbrook Farms, the original sections over there. I have to look at the rest. They're, what is that? Eastern Estates over there, like, by the hospital, Country Downs, Executive Estates on that end. There's a couple other places. Renee, I don't know if I sent you a map, but yeah, they're kind of all throughout the township as they work through that. I would note we're participating with Upper Macungie in a manhole, program. We're going to try to do 25 manholes. Upper Macungie is, bidding that project and managing it out for us. So we're hopeful that, we'll be able to get those complete this year as well. So out of that budget allotment that the board was, able to give us, we're working towards that 1.42 million in upgrades and replacements and lining. So,
And how many manholes need to be upgraded?
we always work through and do an inspection on those. Right now, our list is, just over 50, but as they do the inspections, they always, find some additional things, and that includes, some full depth lining of these manholes. Some of them, we look to raise them up above, the flood area. So, it's not as many. I thought would have more. I don't think out of 4,000 plus manholes
Yeah.
that 50 at this point. I think I always note that besides the lining, we're gonna have to start to look again at an aggressive, tap replacement like we did before. But, once the lining kind of fades away, getting into that and making sure we're able to knock that out in a timely manner. So,
Okay.
yeah, that's where we are with a lot of the projects going on within the township. I don't know if there's any other questions for me on any of that, or if these gentlemen and Renee also have anything for their department reports, unless there's questions for me.
I have one question. Are there any updates on Park at Farmington Hills?
Yeah, the park at Farmington Hills, we are waiting two things with that. One is to get a stretch of over 50-degree days to get the pour in place surface in, because it has to be at temperature. The other thing that we're noting, we're waiting on the contractor to finish and provide those engineered drawings that they need for permitting. So as soon as they get that moving, we've had conversations with them to ensure that that was coming. But right now too, the weather is where we are. There's supposed to be the installer is supposed to be in the area this week, reviewing that site again, and getting ready to schedule for an install. So that's what we're hearing. We're hoping we're not delayed. And they can provide everything on the permitting side.
Thank you.
Any other items for the good of the cause?
The only thing, if I may, commissioners, the only thing I wanted to bring up is I mentioned this at the planning commission meeting. I wanted to bring it up at the workshop tonight and hopefully at another couple of public meetings just to get it out there. We're also going to post it online. Maury, Commissioner Robert, I know you've heard this at the last meeting. We are modifying our agenda and posting procedures for the planning commission. We found that historically we've been posting the agenda essentially a month in advance of the meeting. What ends up happening is once applicants receive their review letters a lot of the time, they'll withdraw from the meeting, especially if there are zoning issues or there are major engineering issues that are brought to light as part of our review. We felt that when residents come to these meetings and then they find that the item has been removed, and we don't know when it's going to be back on the agenda because we're expecting another future submission, it can be confusing for residents. So what we're trying to do now moving forward is the week in advance of the meeting, once we know what the applicants wish to do, or if we as the township feel comfortable putting those items on the agenda, even if they have major outstanding issues, we will then post the agenda well in advance of what the sunshine law requires, but in enough of a time frame so that no residents or other interested parties get confused about whether something is going to be on the agenda or not. Doing it a month in advance just leaves a lot of open questions, and we're trying to do this to streamline the process and make sure that we're being as good as we can possibly be with our public outreach and transparency. So I'll just bring that up a couple more times in a couple of other meetings, and we're going to put it up on our website. That way everybody's aware. So they know when the agenda will be posted. But so far, this is our first month doing that process and it's working so far. So.
Okay, as I expressed at the planning commission meeting, my concern is that the review letters are now going out typically on Friday before. And if the agenda gets posted, then that's cutting it pretty close. So in a way, this is putting more pressure on you and the engineer and so forth to get the letters out earlier to be able to do it a week in advance.
Yeah, we've actually taken that into account as part of the process. So normally on the first month, especially if it's a larger project, the engineering review letter will come out the subsequent month from when a plan is submitted, especially if it's a big project. However, I'm working with the zoning officer and our internal review of both zoning, planning, saldo issues, plus an initial review of any major engineering issues will be able to come out in enough time so that that's posted earlier.
Okay, so, yeah, I would like to see the agenda at least a week in advance. Come out so that people know that the meeting, that it's on the agenda for the meeting rather than.
Yeah, understood.
And so, and have the concern that they have enough letters to be able to withdraw and so. Okay, so any other items coming before the board? Meeting adjourned.
Oh, we forgot Julie's public comment. Any public comment? Julie, public comment? Sorry, can't forget that part.
I looked at Julie and
She was good.
as long as she's crocheting and
Good night.
Good night, all.
good night.